everybody. I'm Dan Cooper, your host for today, and welcome to the Sharpen Podcast, brought to you by Acumen, an exclusive community for CEOs and business owners to help you grow your top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich the storyline. On this episode, we're going to talk about how to stop making messes on purpose inside your business, or the value of an operating system. If you've ever heard of EOS, scaling up, 40X, CEO tools, one-page plans, whatever that may be, we'll unpack a story of value, picking something up, doing it around these things. So truly a one-of-a-kind member within Acumen. He's on the Excel team in Kansas City. His name is Levi Messer. He's the owner of Messer Construction, and he's been on this journey over the last few years, going from a trailblazing sales superhero founder to sustainable, profitable operating company. So welcome, Levi. Good to have you here. What do you do and who do you do it for?
I own Messer Construction, and we frame apartments. So weird little niche thing that nobody completely understands. And I started doing it just so I could make money and be able to preach on the side, and now it became a real business.
So go and do a little bit of that origin story. How'd you get to here?
When I was 17, I told my dad I felt a call to ministry, and he had pastored all my life. And so he said, get a bachelor's in something that you can make money and learn how to work with your hands, so that I'd have an opportunity, whether it's mission work or bivocational ministry. And so did a bachelor's in construction management and went to seminary, and just kind of fell in love with the idea of bivocational ministry. So having not that pastors don't have real jobs, but having a real job, and then doing ministry on top of that.
Okay.
And so started my first business in seminary and in Texas. And when we moved back, I didn't know any better. So I started Messer Construction 12 years ago, remodeling kitchens and bathrooms, with the aspiration of always wanting to build big buildings. So.
Okay. So I would imagine the pastor in you, and I know the pastor in you, might know how to sell, might be able to talk some things.
Yeah.
And so how did that lead to your success? And then what did that do inside your business?
I can sell. There's one estimator out there that would tell you, sharing the gospel is the original sales pitch. So yeah, I could sell anything. Ice to an Eskimo. I mean, it just came natural. And so I could outsell my operation. And so we just kept growing, double, triple, quadruple in size. And I just didn't ever take no for an answer. And so we finally got to a point that I was selling and also in operations, and I had my hand in everything, to where I was the ultimate bottleneck of I'd outsold what we could produce.
So for a lot of people, that's like the best problem to have. But it sounds like for you, not so much. So what was the aha moment that you were like, okay, same thing, doing the same thing in this new thing is a bad idea?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot that took several years to unpack. I think I originally was hesitant to let control go, because success, failure, however you determined it, as much success as we had had in selling and growing, we'd had not any success in making money for years. And so my big fear was just kind of that imposter syndrome mentality. And so some of the people that I allowed to lead in some small areas, when they kind of came together and said, hey, we need to change, and that means you have to let us know all the dirty secrets. I was worried they would see them all and run away. And instead, the opposite happened. There were some that had to go, but most of those and the ones that stayed, it did the opposite. It got way more buy-in. And so I began to let process people build processes that were sustainable. And I stepped out of the way.
How long into the business was this? And then what was the demographics and psychographics, right? Like, so revenue, employees, like when?
Yeah. So we were 16, 17 million and right before COVID hit, we're kind of almost to the place where things were sustainable. COVID hit, we had a couple projects in town that went away. And so really this traveling out of town model became, we just went to anywhere. And so that grew us some, but really what happened was lumber tripled. And so our top line revenue went up, but not because we were doing more work. We were just buying the same 2x4 that was 3 times as much as, what it should have been. And so we got to a place where Kansas City was going, and we were, my wonderful ego and saying that I was a Mountain West framer. I was framing all up and down the Rockies with really not a team that could handle the capacity of work that we were doing spread that far. And so I was actually a conversation with one of the guys in the Acumen group I'm in that just encouraged me to take a non-emotional look at the numbers and make decisions on that, and that bigger is not always better. You can always grow, but that doesn't mean that it has to be in top line revenue.
How do you take a non-emotional look at numbers when you're a high emotional person?
I guess we're going to get personal. The reality of a lot of that at that time, I had a lot of tragedy that happened. So for me, I just didn't have a will to fight, and there was a little bit of there was enough emptiness in me and hurt that some people I never expected to step up and help make those decisions did. And so I think if I hadn't gone through some just personal stuff that took away just that, whatever that thing is that thinks he can go to Bozeman, Montana and build stuff, whether or not you can, that was kind of, that drive was lost. And what was left was just a honest look at the state of affairs and then the hard decisions that have to come back with. We've been in situations that are worse. We've been in situations that are better. And, if we put our head down and have that 20-year vision instead of that 20-day vision, like what could we actually get to?
Okay, so when the way you've always done it is 20 days, you don't flip a light switch and put 20 years in place and change the culture of the company and the seats on the bus, all the things that if you read all the books, they tell you what to do. And for somebody who trailblazes, they don't want to do it the same way everybody else does. So how did you start to implement something that's foreign? And then how did you pick which version? Because there's not a lack of opportunity of stepping into a platform. So,
well, the first thing was I had to check my ego and realize I wasn't the smartest guy in every room. And then through that, I began to bring in, I'd gotten more involved in Acumen. I brought in a consultant to help with that transition. I gave some authority. There was a conversation I had at one point with 3 of my leaders where I said, look, I'm not bringing myself down to you guys. I'm raising you up to my position. And so, whether I like it or not, you guys have the authority to tell me no. Now, if I sell you and you figure out it's a yes, but they operate from a very different standpoint than I do. And so we began to just do a committee-led decision. So as we made decisions as a group that I did not necessarily agree with, and success came from that, that began to allow me to trust. And so now I sit in this position of I can truly say I have more joy when I see somebody do something better than I could have ever done it.
So how was that first time when they told you no?
Oh, I mean, just temper tantrum. I think I laid on the ground. I looked like my 4-year-old. Got real quiet. I can get real red in the face, got silent. And I trusted them, but I think secretly my hope was it would fail and then it could come back to me, and it didn't. And so I mean, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we slowly chipped away at so much of the things. I heard a preacher say one time, he was pastoring the biggest church in the United States at the time, and he said, I had the gift and ability to take me where no other gift and ability could take you, meaning he could preach anybody under the table. But he said, I lacked the tools necessary to keep me there. And that was where we were at. I'd grown us to a place where, you know, not maybe everybody could get to, but I came to the realization I lack the tools to keep us here. And so if we're going to stay here, I either need to get some people who have better tools than mine, or shrink back down to a level that I could just be a micromanager and bottleneck every decision.
So it's not like you didn't have the freedom of choice. You could have just gotten smaller and still been the man, and away you went. Why do the growth one?
I don't know, because I'm a trailblazer. Can I just say that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no wrong answer, right? But it's like something in you was like, no, I choose this, not that.
I mean, at the core of me is this pastoral heart. And so there's a strong desire. Well, we adopted the mission statement of change people's eternity a couple of years ago. And so you know, there's a certain size and level we want to be at in order to do that. It may be a bigger level than what I could have if I shrunk down, and I needed to be big enough to have the infrastructure for the day in and day out, and that we grow towards that, so I could take that step back into vocational ministry.
So I want to put that big word in my pocket for a second. We'll come back to the word eternity because that's not the typical mission statement or motto, if you will. So what happened with the people? You start this new process. Everybody step up, level up. Some stay, some go. What did the bus look like after this thing?
Some stayed. Yeah. So the ones that stayed, you know, they dug in like a tick. Some left willingly. Some I remember the first time I let a guy go based on culture. I mean, we didn't have the culture was me, right? And that might change daily based on the hamster wheel in my own head. And so the first time I let go of somebody on culture, it was like, I mean, that's always a difficult decision. But it felt a whole lot better, like in that aspect, and being able to talk through the why, and it not just be an emotional decision based on some, you know, mistake, but this is directionally where we're going, and you don't fit. And you know, so we transitioned that individual off, and then what happened with that was then people stepped up even more. You don't realize sometimes how timid people can be because of somebody above them until they have the opportunity to take that step in leadership.
So the Trailblazers still in there, and you know, he might be a little more tame than he once was. Maybe the sharp edges are filed down a little bit. How do you handle all the triggers and the way you're made to jump back in and do all the stuffs? How do you keep it going?
I don't know. I sit in my office because um, my team does so much that I sometimes am confused of where I'm supposed to be. You know, I mean, a big goal every day is like, don't mess this up. I mean, we've got a couple years of data of good profitability and happy customers and right size and, you know, all the stuff that should make someone happy and proud and not want to go tinker and cut. And so I've really tried to move more into this role of just trying to improve as a leader and along the way, coach. I mean, there's some things I think I'm still decent at. You know, I can walk into a room and sell. I mean, maybe that's the only thing I can do. But when you're taking process people, I mean, in my mind, everything sells. I had this conversation with my daughter. We got a new puppy, and the puppy's to the point where it runs away when you let it outside.
Yeah.
And so I told my daughter, I said, everything sells. I said, I can get that dog back in without taking a step outside. And she just, Dad, you can't do that. I said, watch. I grabbed the dog bowl with food and shook it, and the puppy runs in. And so it's like my version of sales is like riding kind of a slightly untamed horse. Like you have to work together to get it where you need it to go. And so it's just on a job site with my guys, like let's be problem solvers, not problem finders. Let's be proactive. Let's relationally talk to people in a way that's more than just they're some type of enemy foe, because they really are a customer. That answers it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you get the urge to want to be not this version of you.
I mean, that's every day.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you tame the beast?
I don't know. I'll get back to you in 20 years.
I'll let you know after I figured it out.
So I think for me, it's remembering back to, you know, the control and the trust is always difficult. That's always going to be difficult. There's always this innate fear that everybody's going to walk out the door. And I think it's remembering what we've gone through together as a team. My hope is this team stays together and grows for until I retire. But I'm trying to be better about being in the present and not consumed with the unrealistic future and rewriting the realistic past.
Mm.
And so I think that helps me be with the person that I'm with at any level, whether that's somebody at Quick Trip that's just, you know, selling me a can of chew, or that's some C-suite level general contractor president, you know, just treat them all the same.
Okay, so if someone is where you were, and they were thinking like everything I just heard, I can't do that. What advice would you tell someone who's about ready to like want to jump into getting their life control, trust, you know, all the things you've talked about, building a team and getting out of the insanity of doing it differently every day?
I mean, the first thing is just whatever hot sauce you like on your humble pie, put that on there and start eating it daily. I mean, I think it begins with ego. You know, I just was worn down enough to like at least realize to some measure that we've been doing the same thing over for 9 years and keep getting the same results. So I think that's part of it. And the other part is just um trust people, I mean, trust but verify, but there are people on everyone's team, regardless of size, that have capabilities that you can only imagine. And I think for me, at least as a leader, I was ultimately the one holding back what people wanted to do and could do.
It's funny. Whatever we do is what ends up rolling downhill. So as we go, so does the company. All right, let's go to that big word. On your website, your company's motto, as you said it, which I think's
I didn't even know we had a website.
fun. That's awesome. That's awesome. The motto versus vision or whatever is changing people's eternity. Eternity is a big word.
Big word.
What?
Yeah, it's a big word, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Jesus said that, I mean, the kingdom of God is here and now. So there's an aspect of eternity that's here. It's in this moment. And so caring for people in a level that doesn't see life ending at 85, that changes the viewpoint. And so for all levels, right? For me, I mean, obviously I'm sharing the gospel and want that to be a big part of it. And when I say eternity, I'm thinking that, but we had to bring it all the way down to I've got a guy that his dream is to hike the Appalachian Trail. And so like I'm actively trying to be profitable enough and good leadership enough to where we can give him a sabbatical and say, go get lost in the woods for 6 weeks. And so it's just my leaders, I kind of know what they want, what that goal is they think they can never get. And for some of them it's experiences, for some of this it's possessions. For me, for all of them, it's that they come to know Jesus. So
That's weird, man. I'm throwing the air quotes for those listening. How does that play out in the marketplace? We use words stained glass and plain glass a lot, right? Like, so, you have a very plain glass business, and yet your heart and where you come from is a stained glass. How do you smash those things together in a way that is attractive, and also able, so you can still get work done?
yeah. Well, I'm probably more construction than I am preacher. So set that first. I can run with the dogs to a certain point, and I've swung a hammer and done that. So there's a level of I never gave myself a pass because of my belief system as far as getting out there and doing the work. So I try and be good at what we do and knowledgeable in the field that we work in. And then, I don't, it's not like so overtly, I'm trying to be careful not to take a shot at anybody that might, have a religious symbol in their name. Like I didn't want that either. I wanted it to be authentic, like life on life. Growing leaders, if what finally clicked for me is growing leaders in a business, that's just discipleship in the business world. It's instruction, it's encouragement, it's life on life, it's accountability. It's all those things that I grew up in the church learning how to share the gospel, for somebody to feel the brokenness of their own heart with Jesus, and then that sanctification process of growing in Christ. When I finally realized that developing leaders is discipleship, like it clicked for me. And so it's not this big banner that we wave. I mean, what we're have to do in this company is build apartments and and build them for less than what we bid them at. But through those times, you know, who are the people we're meeting, and how do I get to share Jesus with them?
It's an oldie bit of goodie is come alongside others, help them solve their challenges and serve their opportunities. And then you get chances to talk about deep things.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, and I said it, tragedy in my own life is what made transformation. And so a lot of times, you know, people I work with, they know, look, I can sell, you know, we can go build buildings. And then I got this weird preaching thing. So when there is tragedy in their life, they tend not to turn towards their drinking buddies or their work buddies.
It's their framer. They come call their framer.
I mean, I've done weddings and funerals for people that have no interaction with church just because they don't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
So
right on. That's the best. Okay. How are you being sharp and challenged and inspired as a business owner right now? What's getting your goat?
Oh, this idea of coaching my leaders. So we started walking through a leadership book, me and three of my guys, and a couple weeks ago, and challenging ourselves on specific leadership things. And so that's been good. Along with that, I'm trying the things that I do well that I don't know how to teach, I'm trying to teach. And so I'm realizing for me, what I think I've communicated isn't what I really communicated. So I'm trying to sharpen in how do you build up, how do you lead better, how do you coach better, how do you get it, not to take it back to discipleship again, but that's what it is. Paul says he talks about discipleship to the second, third generation. So how do I get it not just past me to my leaders, but from my leaders down to their leaders, and from their leaders down to their, like, how do we get 3 and 4 generations down? I think that's when, like, eternal success can begin to happen.
It's good. Okay. Starts with humility. Then you actually have to do it. It needs to cascade down, and the people probably change. And you said 3 years. So I guess that'd be my last question. All in, how long is this process? And from start to finish, this isn't just a program you put in for a quarter and it rolls. Like, so how long before you believed and they believed that this is the new way, the Messer way?
I mean, I'm gonna stick with 3 years. I think it took that, and we're at the beginning of it, right? The Trailblazer still wants me to micromanage and jump in and just, so we're still growing in it. But it was like 2 years of hard work to break it down and figure out processes and put them in place and mess them up. And we're still tinkering with them. And then the last year we began to look at the hard data and see the success in it. And now it's just, we need to keep improving and selling the right amount of work. Yeah.
Somebody, so it's funny you say the 3 years thing, or maybe I planted that in your head. It's tied to like a college football program. Year 1, the new coach comes in and he just assesses the players and thinks about, puts in a system. Year 2, you start to move the players around and the system starts to be done. The real fruit is in year 3, because you got players and system and coach all aligned going in the same way. And so Messer University, man.
Messer University
is just getting it done.
Is there you decided to talk about messes and that somehow ties into my name?
There is, I'm punny like that.
Yeah.
It's the dad joke in me. I just can't I can't not do that. Thanks for being authentic, man. Thanks for opening heart and head and everything. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
So if people wanted to get a hold of you because they need a pastor to do their wedding and they don't know what to do with that, how would they reach out to you? Where would they go find you? Do you know what your website is? I'll do this test.
LMesserConstruction.com.
I love that there's a question mark at the end of that. For a sales guy who doesn't know where you would find them on the internet, it's priceless. Priceless. Thanks, man. If you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com. That's acumenimpact.com. I know our web address, and click on the apply button. Or if you'd like to learn more, we have a ton of great content under the resources tab. And until next time.